What would you say impresses you the most about maybe some Budtenders, what they've taught you that you may be unaware of, and how that's benefited the company?
Wow, that's another great question.
Hey everyone, welcome to this TDR Cannabis Exclusive. As usual, I am your host, Shad Dales. Today we're talking branding, cannabis, and the importance of Budtenders. We actually had a podcast a couple weeks ago, and some of the questions and some of the things that we brought up is how Budtenders are now the new social influencer of the industry, not these high-profile Hollywood stars. So as Budtenders further strengthen their footprint on the industry, branding comes essential. So with a lot of limitations this industry has right now as to what it can and can't do, there are a few companies, and especially one, which is MariMed, that is knocking it out of the park. So I want to learn more about what the branding future looks like for this industry as we welcome in the Chief Communications Officer of MariMed, Howard Schacter. Good to see you. Finally connect. It's been a few months since we saw each other.
Great, for sure. Great to see you, Shad. Thanks so much for having me on.
Last time we saw each other in Vegas at a little casino at Planet 13. What a dispensary that is, huh? Crazy.
Oh my gosh. Crazy.
Massive place. But I know there's been a lot of pressure within the industry right now from a capital markets perspective, but you guys continue to be a really great story, one of the best performing stocks in the industry from January 1 of this year, and quietly going about your way. So how does the team overall feel right now about where you are as a company, and more importantly, how you see the company, I guess, developing for the remainder of the calendar year?
Yeah, great question. Look, we are bullish at a time where so many, including us, are facing certain headwinds, macroeconomics, right? Consumer spending, all price pressures, all the rest of it, the lack of momentum in DC, of course. But we are just, grinding it out, head down, doing what we've always done, applying financial prudence, discipline, a measured plan, and we're teed up to have a great 23 as a result, just as we've had some good years behind us, and really bullish on the future.
Yeah, well, I can sit here and say the stories that we do with you guys, it's incredible just the feedback that we get. And the sentiments definitely changed where a year ago it was like, buy, the top 3 or 4 MSOs in the space, and that has quickly changed. But you guys have definitely come to the forefront because you're making money, which is why we're all here. But outside of that, I wanted to talk about just branding and getting, I guess, viewers a better understanding of what the day-to-day or operations and some of the things that you guys have to deal with. Because as I said off the top, there's a lot of limitations when it comes to marketing and advertising in the industry. And one thing that's clear now is companies need to have an aggressive grassroots strategy to gain the consumer's attention. So in the battle for cannabis consumer, what do you feel is the most important aspects of your consumers' products to stand out in the retail shelves?
Yeah, well, that's a great question and great context. I often refer to the industry as it relates to marketing and branding. It's the United States of Europe, right? We have to deal with these different regulations in each state that span from packaging to the way we can phrase things in press releases to the types of advertising we can do. It's insane. It's a challenge. It's actually a fun challenge for a marketer, but it's a real challenge. So for us, we know that if our product delivers, and for us that means great taste, great quality, great experience, you can overcome everything else and get people into your funnel and keep them there buying and buying. So for us, it's about quality. And what does quality mean?
Right.
For us, that's about great, as I said, great taste, but full spectrum cannabis, all natural ingredients whenever we can use them. It costs more, but it delivers what consumers want, right? And that starts with R&D and heavy investment in that space, and giving consumers what they're looking for in experience or needs, such things as sleep or pain, anxiety, what have you.
Do you think that's probably one of the main reasons why you're set up long-term to succeed but have already experienced success is based on the time spent of research, development, thinking before actually reacting? I assume that you probably would say yes, but do you think that's been the downfall for a lot of companies in this space, even though we're still, let's face it, early stages of this industry still?
Yeah, I still right, second, third inning, what have you. Or you're in Canada, I guess, first period.
I want to move to Florida, Howard.
No,
I want to move to
but
Florida.
look, 100% the answer is yes. And for those, viewers out there that don't know much about my own background, I come from traditional CPG
Yeah.
and retail prior to entering cannabis, and came into cannabis in another MSO that was part of the land grab, phase of this industry, where things like thinking about the consumer and thinking about brand wasn't top of mind at the time. Well, that is 180 degrees different from the way we think about things at MariMed. It all starts with the consumer.
Yeah.
What they want, what they need, the experience they're looking for in a dispensary, how to build a relationship with them, and how to keep on building it based on great products and great marketing strategies. So we have focused on that from day one in terms of the kind of products we develop, and why. And we're prone to saying we sort of zig when a lot of other folks
Yeah.
zag. So our Betty's Eddies product, for
Huge.
example, it's taffy. It wasn't gummy, and that was based on research and a high quality item. And where our lead SKU had been sleep, consumers were telling us they were looking for more. So last year, we evolved the brand to include SKUs focused on pain, anxiety, libido, and others that consumer research said that today's cannabis consumer is looking for. Vibations, which is our recently
Yeah.
introduced beverage brand, right? Everybody else is sprinting towards RTDs, towards ready to drink. Well, our research showed, well, no, you know what? There's a big opportunity here for on the go energy and focus that folks were looking for. And so Vibations is a powdered energy drink. And look, I can go on and on. In-house is a brand where folks were saying, we're looking for high quality, but we need more affordable pricing. And our in-house brand delivers on that. So focusing on the intersection of what consumers need, what they're looking for, and how we deliver it in a cannabis product that, if it wasn't infused, would do just as well on a specialty supermarket shelf. That is our formula to success.
Well said. So, what do you think right now are the most, I guess, top of mind awareness, like popular trends that you see as far as like products? Because you've said like people are pivoting towards drinks and stuff like that, but then you bring up the idea of doing your research and finding people want energy drinks and on the go. So, do you see a lot of people from the alcohol industry pivoting into the cannabis industry, sooner than what people think, and replacing that?
Well, look, our R&D and marketing team has several senior executives from that space, and they're teaching us a heck of a lot. So the broad answer is beverage as a trend. We absolutely see that. We're very bullish on beverage and have high hopes for Vibations longer term. But more importantly, we've always said as a company that the winners in cannabis long term will be those that understand brand,
Yeah.
deliver great brand, build great customer loyalty against that brand. And that's been our focus. At some point in the future, and none of us have the crystal ball, but at some point in the future, brands are going to be available in 50 states and beyond. And the only winners, the Cokes, the Starbucks, the McDonald's
Yeah.
of tomorrow, are going to be those that understand how to stay on top of consumer trend, give consumers what they're looking for, deliver it consistently, scalable, precision dosed, and do it in a way with marketing differentiators that they love, that become the tiebreaker in why they go with you. Great taste, quality, interesting marketing. They'll stay with you forever.
Yeah. Well, I got to bring this up because this is interesting marketing. Prior to being at MariMed, you were at Acreage Holdings, and if people remember in the industry, this is about 3-4 years ago, where there was a 60-second commercial that was going to run during the Super Bowl. And this was all your idea and strategy. So, okay, the commercial gets produced. Then what happens next? You submit it to, who was it, CBS, airing the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, look, in fairness, I had some great colleagues there. So I am not. I don't like the I game. I like the we game. There was a group of us.
Yeah.
In fairness, but back to the concept. we produced a beautiful spot that folks could Google and see on YouTube called "The Time Is Now," which really spoke to,
Yeah.
as we still feel, right? The time is now for legalization. We produced the spot. We got it to CBS, which was airing the Super Bowl that year. This is 2019. And fully prepared to write the check to have a 60-second spot play.
What were they charging?
$5 million at the time, I believe, for a 60.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole of what MSOs were willing to spend on different things at the time.
Yeah.
Whole separate conversation, I guess. But we were prepared to write that check. But we were also prepared for the likely answer, which was no, we're not airing this. And so we turned that into a PR opportunity for ourselves and really for the industry to say, look, we're talking about CBS, which is accepting pharmaceutical ads, alcohol ads. Half the commercials were this close to pornographic, and yet, this miracle plant telling a miracle story, legal in so many states, they won't air that. And so we shined a light on that, and the PR was just off the hook. It translated to, a 500 million or something consumer impressions, which translated to probably as much visibility we got from getting the no as we would have gotten with the yes.
Well, what's the audience for a Super Bowl? I don't even know anymore. Do they get 30, 40 million? Yeah, they got to get 30 or 40 million, don't they?
I don't know, man. You're talking to a Jet fan. I don't watch the Super Bowl very
Hey, Aaron Rodgers, buddy. Aaron Rodgers. Be hopeful.
From your mouth, but they're keeping us waiting.
So, you talk about the quality of product and branding and great PR. So here you are creating a Super Bowl commercial, and now you pivoted once you joined the MariMed team. You and your team put together the 850-pound brownie that made it all the way to Jimmy Kimmel's. These are great ideas and strategies, but how do you measure success as to whether that worked or not? Did that help the overall product brand, and if so, how?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as a guy, who's classically trained in communications from my career, that's the holy grail. How do you measure earned media and social media, viral zeitgeist stuff, right? Well, you do the basic quant. How many impressions have you generated? You could look at things like advertising equivalency, meaning if, I do a PR stunt that translates to 20 seconds on the Today Show, how much would it have cost to place an ad for 20 seconds or 30? And we call that advertising equivalency, tonality. There's a bunch of measurement. But at the end of the day, honestly, as much as anything, you say, did this really spark conversation big time? Do friends and family say, wow, I saw that? The case of the brownie, we were on Saturday Night Live and Jimmy Kimmel in 43 countries around the world. It was hard to miss. Now that said, and I'll share, a little secret here. It was a very hard charge inside our company to get anybody to believe the brownie would be as big as I really in my heart thought it would. So sales and marketing, we're learning every day like everybody in this did not leverage it the way they might have otherwise in knowing how big it would be. Well, we learned from that mistake. So just wait for when we do our next stunt, which I'm not prepared to share, but when we do sales and marketing, I'll be all over it.
I'm hoping they're filming it. That sounds like a lot of fun. We talked actually a couple weeks ago about the importance of Budtenders. We actually recently did a Twitter poll last week asking our audience, how do you make your cannabis purchases decisions while at a dispensary? And the overwhelming response was people already knew what they wanted to get before they entered into the dispensary. So if they're walking in, what do you think? There's a lot of investment that companies have to focus on when it comes to Budtenders. But what can you share with us as to the level of importance and how you see Budtenders growing as more and more social influencers within this industry?
It's huge. That is such a great topic, a great question, Shad. I'm thrilled you brought that up because think about it. The whole context of our conversation, the challenges of marketing because of the legalization status, the different regulatory landscape, state to state. No mass advertising to support brands, which, that is probably at the top of the list. You need mass advertising to get mass awareness, right? So if you don't have those things working for you, what do you have?
Right.
You've got the person on the front line who, whether a newbie or a hardcore user, is coming into that dispensary, and the bud tender is brand ambassador number one for that dispensary and the brands that are on the shelves. So we spend a great deal of energy in training our own budtenders, as well as through our wholesale folks and our brand ambassador team, the budtenders at our wholesale clients. It's absolutely critical that they understand why our products stand out, what makes them different, but also train them to be people. Think of a typical person who may come into that dispensary completely vulnerable, scared to ask hard questions. Well, you've got to show compassion, you've got to show knowledge, empathy, right? And a willingness to learn yourself, stay on top of the information. So we consider that a critically important task in moving the needle forward. That said, if you come into one of our dispensaries, we're not telling our budtenders to oversell our own products. I mean, obviously we want our products sold and we're proud of them, but we lose all credibility the minute that a patient or a consumer feels like we're just pushing our own stuff on them. That's just not how you build brand loyalty long term.
What would you say impresses you the most about maybe some budtenders, what they've taught you that you may be unaware of, and how that's benefited the company?
Wow, that's another great question. Well, I will tell you, I've become a fan of dabbing lately, and that was because of a budtender recommendation. I was actually talking to a budtender in one of our Illinois stores about the fact that I really just don't taste the terpenes the way I would like to. Our strains are delicious, but I don't really get the flavor. He said, you need to start dabbing.
Really?
And I did, and man, I am a convert. Huh.
I'd be curious to know what their top 1 to 2 questions that they receive every day. Do you have an idea?
Yeah, and we look at that too, of course. They're always asked, just think of it a restaurant, right? What's eating well? What do you like? They're asked, what's your favorite product?
Yeah.
Of course, what's testing high? Because so many consumers are driven by high THC equals great product. And I think those of us that, pretty much know better than that, but it's still an important factor. So they're asked that all the time. And they're asked like, hey, I need help sleeping. I need help with pain relief. Do you have a recommendation there? And I think another area that's becoming more and more important, certainly in the edible spaces, what's going to deliver the quickest onset. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of consumers are very disappointed with the schlocky products that take an hour or more to kick in, and maybe sometimes lead to overdosing as a result.
Yeah.
So another product plug for us. We've cracked the code on that.
A lot of feedback I've had in conversations recently is that the number one consumer product that people want to consume from converting from alcohol, I'm not saying that they completely abstinent on alcohol, but if they start to pivot into the cannabis space, is edibles. Do you agree with that? And do you see that trending in that direction as far as people that traditionally were alcohol consumers, and as they start to get educated more and learn more about the products and brands, edibles seems to be at the forefront?
Yeah, look, I think that's a natural. I don't have the data in front of me, but I think that the data that we do have would support that notion, and it makes sense, right? I mean, there's always flower is still king and probably will be for a long time among the long-term users. But in this day of health and wellness, a lot of people don't want to be having anything combustible go into their lungs, and so an edible is both both a more health and wellness choice, but it's also a much more easy entry point, right? Most people, and this was the reason we did the brownie, most people have some memory of that pot brownie being their first experience with the product, right? So if the entry point is a gummy or a piece of taffy, or in our case, Bubby's Baked, a brownie or a snickerdoodle, or even a drink, it's a more natural, easy entry into what might otherwise be really scary new category.
Betty's Eddies, what a product. This has really gained, I think, you're about to enter in. When do you enter back into the Illinois market for the product?
Well, and we can't wait to come. So Betty's, thanks for the nod. And it is a great product. Top seller in every market. It's available. It was the number one seller in up until 2019. We had a licensing agreement with Betty's with another MSO. So we are currently in construction of our grow and processing facility in Mount Vernon, Illinois. We had announced last year. So we anticipate mid-year or so is when we'll be bringing product back. And to this day, we get consumers asking for
John
it
was
back.
telling
So
me that.
we'll be bringing the whole suite.
Yeah, John was telling me in the last podcast the response as to how eager people from Illinois are to get that product back within the state. We talk about
It's true.
We talk about state lines and everything. I want you to look into your crystal ball and from a CPG perspective. Where are we 5 years from now within this industry? Are we still talking about certain products being available only in certain states? Or do you think we eventually look back and say, wow, I can't believe we had to deal with that at one time?
You know, I hate to punt on a great question, but I don't have the crystal ball there. And honestly, look, part of what makes us, I think, very different. We won't go on the line with that kind. Who the heck knows? So the smart company is the one that will place a couple of different bets and be able to succeed no matter the path.